Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Katie, for those who have for some reason forgotten, and this is Books R Us. So I realized after putting up my last video about Black History Month that I didn't actually do a wrap-up for January. So that's what we're going to do today, is I'm going to be talking about the books I read in January. Some of them I've talked about in other videos, but some of them I haven't, so let's get started. This is going to be in no particular order, not which I read first or last or whatever. It's just kind of what I have in the stack right here. I'm actually going to start with one that I actually don't own and that I got from the library, and that is In an Absent Dream by Sean McGuire. It's the fourth book in the Wayward Children series. I believe there are more books coming out in the series. There's at least one more book coming out in the series, but basically the whole series talks about what happens to children after they come back from going through a portal, basically. So think Alice in Wonderland or Narnia, or what else am I thinking of? Those are kind of the two I'm thinking of right now, but basically they go through something. So Alice fell down the whole rabbit hole. Lucy and her siblings went through the wardrobe, where they came back and their lives are changed and they always want to go back. But these children come back and they can't find their door again. So that's kind of what sets up in the first book. This last one talks about one of the characters you meet in the first book. She goes by Lundy, and it talks about her world and what she experienced and how she kind of moved back and forth between this world and then her own world, her own portal. So it kind of goes through her adventures, why she got to where she is, and kind of what happens in both worlds from there. The next one on my big pile right here, I just realized how big it is. Again, in no particular order. It is, I talked about this in one of my last videos for last month for Mental History Month. It's Quiet by Susan Cain. It talks about how introverts or kind of like the history of the term introverts and how different communities kind of work with them or hinder them. It's nonfiction. We did this for our book club last month at the library. I chose this because of Mental History Month, or Mental Wellness Month, and getting people thinking about different things, how introverts and extroverts can work together, and all of that fun stuff. It was actually the most attended book club I've had. So that just gave me an idea of people actually like stuff like this, so maybe do more of it later in the year when I have to choose more books for book club. The next one on my list, I actually did talk about this last video for Black History Month. It's Homegoing by Ya Gyasi. If I mispronounce the name, I'm sorry. Please let me know in the comments how I'm supposed to pronounce that if I said it wrong. But basically, it talks about two half-sisters who don't know about each other and until later in life when they can no longer get back together, and kind of what happens with their descendants. Each chapter is a different person, so you kind of get confused, but like I showed in the last one, there is a family tree here. There we go. There's a family tree. So if for some reason you don't know how people connect, that's always there. I will say with this one, it was like the last day of me reading that, and I freaking ripped the cover of it. Like, it's the last day of me reading it. I shouldn't have, ripped covers. This is the author, by the way. I shouldn't have had to, the shouldn't have happened, first off. But second off, it happened so late. I'm like, really? This is the last day. Anyways, little nuts, I know. Welcome to my life. The next one that I have is Dragon Pearl by Yoon Ha Lee. If you can tell, it's by Rick Riordan Presents. Rick Riordan being the person who created Magnus Chase, Percy Jackson, Heroes of Olympus, and the Kane Chronicles. So he's kind of created his own stamp, his own. I don't know if it's a considered a publishing company. It might be. I haven't looked into it all that much, honestly. But this is the second or third book under Rick Riordan Presents. This one, Dragon Pearl, talks about kind of futuristic Korean mythology, if that makes sense. Futuristic Korean mythology. So it kind of is like a time different thing. But it takes Korean mythology and puts it into the future in space. So it talks about, why this family can do certain things. But the main character is Min. That's her right there. And she gets her family gets a letter from her brother saying something that's a little off, and they're shown this by someone from the company he works for, saying that he has deserted. Sounds a little odd to her, so she goes and investigates. So this kind of goes on to like how she investigates, who she meets, what she finds out, and I really liked this. I think I gave this like a 4 or 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. But I'm really into all this mythology stuff. I'm really glad that they're bringing in different mythologies besides just the Greek and the Roman that a lot of people know about. Well, I'm assuming a lot of people know about because of the classical stuff that a lot of Western stuff is built off of. The next one I've actually talked about before. Again, some of these I've talked about. And that is The Outcast, which is the prequel to the Summoner series by Taran Matharu. This talks about one of the main characters from the original Summoner series, kind of his backstory, again, how he got to where he is, and the backstory on that, and how different characters that you meet in the Summoner series, how they kind of all relate in the past. Really liked it. I did a whole video on the Summoner series. I'll link that down below if you guys are interested in watching that one. But definitely give this whole series a read. I'm not sure if you want to read the prequel first. Like, it's a prequel, so it kind of goes first, but it was published last, so you kind of get to know the whole world in the trilogy first, and then you get to learn the backstory. So that's the reason I read it in that way. However, you can read it however you want to. So the next one on my list is Wish Tree by Catherine Applegate. This is a children's book, fairly short, so that was nice. It took me a day or two to read this because I don't read unless I'm usually on transit because I have a long commute. But basically, it's about this tree who's been growing for generations and has kind of seen the neighborhood around him. They don't really. It's told in first person of the tree, and all of the characters refer to it as him. But the tree says that they don't really look at gender all that much. So, anyways, but yeah, it's basically about the tree who sees the neighborhood grow up, and it focuses on this one episode between two families and kind of some tensions that grow between a girl and her school. But yeah, it's a cute book about acceptance and friendship and being oneself that I really liked. Very good for children. I really liked it. Now, the next two are a duology, as far as I know. And that is Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom by Lee Bardugo. So these are a little hefty, so I'm just going to set this one down for now. So the first one, Six of Crows, it talks about different people coming together, some of whom had known each other before, some of whom who didn't, and met on the journey, and basically breaking into the most secure place in that world. And then Crooked Kingdom, which I'll show you here, which has this nice red right here, kind of deals with the aftermath of that. They're both fantasy, both really good. Talks about magic, and it's part of kind of the Grisha universe. So there's the Grisha trilogy that Lee Bardugo wrote before these two, and then she wrote the Six of Crows duology. I didn't read the trilogy first. I actually read these guys first, and I like there is some things where it's like, oh, I probably would have learned more about this had I read the Grisha trilogy first. However, I didn't miss much. He explains enough in these two that I could read them without having read the trilogy first. However, I will be reading the trilogy. I now own the trilogy, the Grisha trilogy, and will be reading that after I've gotten through my TBR that I kind of went through last week. I am so glad that they included like a gay romance in this, even though it wasn't like the main focus, which I'm glad at. It's like, oh yeah, this happens, but it's not the main focus, but it's not also blown off, if that makes sense. Like it's treated with respect, which is really cool. So that's all I have for that. Those are the 8 books that I read last month, aside from the picture books I read for work. But yeah, I read 8 books last month, which I am really proud of. And if you have any questions, I do have a link to my Goodreads account that kind of explains some of those in depth even some more. But I will see you guys later. Bye.